Hello. Today I wanted to talk about relationships. Oh my God. What the hell are we going to discuss? Oh my goodness. This could be serious. Well, if you're married or if you got a boyfriend or a girlfriend, I guess it could be. I don't know. That'd be up to you, I guess, because I don't really have any opinions right now. I've got a lot of experience, but I don't know. I'm trying to cut everybody some slack and go back to my original thoughts and theory. And all relationships aside, what I need to I have to zero myself out and just start like, I don't know, go back down to the baseline and start to figure, not just to go back up again, but how? In what way? What do I want to do? That can be interesting. There's a lot of things that relationships do for you and keep you from. Yeah, they do. Nothing's perfect. But I just like to say that, in all honesty, well, yeah, they say life is what you make of it. That's true. And there's others that say life is a bitch. And then there's others that would answer that with compared to what. So, your story's different than mine. Some are similar, but no two alike. We all got off the bus at this planet Earth at one time or another. You got off at the bus stop, and here you are. And some of you are taking it better than others. Some of you just are bitter. I get that. There are women out there that got married and then the husband left them, and then they had to do the whole number by themselves. You know they're bitter. At least a lot of them are. There are a few that could handle it and raise their children, no matter how many they may be, by themselves. It's tough. That is really tough. So, a relationship can be what you make of it, or it can be what somebody else does to you. Ooh, that's rough. Or it could be, unless they really meant it when they said the marriage vows, for better or worse, sickness and health, and the major points to that. I guess the question is then, did they mean it or did they not mean it? It's like enlisting in service. Are you going to stay on that side, or are you going to run over to the enemy side? Well, most people stay on their own side. But, a relationship, I don't know. Let me just look back up and look at it a little different. Have you noticed that somebody will be in your life for a while and then they're not? Sometimes it's like they just walk off the edge of the earth. They leave. Like it may be somebody at work that you really like at work, and then they get promoted, or they change companies, or they go across the country to Colorado or California, and you don't even know what happened to them, and you really like that person. Whew, that can have an effect on people. Yes, it can. If you're emotionally loaded with that person, by that I mean you've got a lot of time and talk and energy invested in that person, and they just split. There leaves a vacuum there. You don't know what happened to them. You wonder what happened. I took care of a lady for 12 years. I'm not going to say her name, but we never really had any problems with me taking care of her. She was 72. I was 50. I think I was 58 when I started taking care of her. And we were real good friends. But she was 72 at the time. And she was like, could get around, but slow. Used a walker sometime, used a cane sometime. Her kids, grown adults, of course. She had a son and 2 daughters. Well, I'm going to say $3, but one committed suicide. She hung herself in the garage of the house she lived in. That was a earth-shaking event. Poor thing, she was depressed. Her husband had run away and took her kids with him, and she just couldn't take it. And she got something. I don't know if it was a belt or what. I forgot what she used, and hung herself out in the garage. The cops found her 2 weeks later. Ooh, that was not good. And it affected the whole neighborhood. What we do does affect other people, whether they want to admit it or not. And her neighbors actually didn't. I've got stuff falling here. Her neighbors, some of them liked her, and some of them didn't even know who she was. And there she was, decaying in her garage, having been, after 2 weeks, you can imagine. But anyway, that's not my point. My point is relationships matter. Should you have a relationship? Do you want one? Are you better off alone, by yourself? These are questions that weigh on people. Weighs on me. So my original flat line statement, where you start at the bottom and build up again to go back up. That statement is actually we're all just trying to make it through the day. Are we not? Are we all not just trying to make it through the day? Are you making it through the day okay? Are you okay by yourself? Are you really hurting because you're by yourself? Or do you really... you're going to have to give up some privacy if you get a mate or a caretaker even. A caretaker has a certain amount of relationship with you. They have to in order to meet your needs every day. I mean, it's not... A caretaker's a little more personal than a business assistant or somebody you work with in the office. This person's they're seeing your private stuff. They're seeing your private personal belongings. They're going through your personal belongings if you need something. So, you got to give up some privacy is what I'm trying to say. If you're going to have a caretaker, or if you're going to have a live-in boyfriend or girlfriend, you're going to have to give up some privacy and accept the fact that they're going to know a whole lot more about you than maybe you wish they did later if you break up, because they could really nail you to the wall out there with other people. Especially if, like, you work at the same place or something like that. Things can go south real quick. So, these are things to consider. I had a marriage counselor one time and now this guy wasn't attached with anybody as far as a certain group of people that do that sort of thing. He didn't work for social services or nothing. He was just, I think he had worked with a pastor one time doing counseling or whatever. But what he did, and I don't recommend this, not unless you got some real integrity and you know how to control what you tell other people. I don't recommend this. He interviewed me in my kitchen, sitting in a chair, and then I left the room and he interviewed my wife. Now, he told me, I'm going to interview both of you, but I'm going to keep it to myself what each of you said, because I need to hear your story from each side so I'll know how to help you. Well, we both gave him our side of the story like he asked. Well, then he interviewed me again and started telling me everything she said about me. That's not what we agreed on. And then he talked with her and told her everything I said about her. He said the way you do this is, here's his explanation. And I don't go with this because this. Now you're talking about bad way to operate. He said you take this story and this story, and you put them together, wad them up, and throw them up in the air, and see if there's anything left of your marriage when it comes back down. Is that any way to do anybody? No. I didn't like it. My wife didn't even like it. So don't do that. Please. Don't do that to anybody. That's not counseling. Well, I guess it is honesty, but it's not counseling. So anyway, that's one little story about, and I call it my how not to counsel story. It's sad, but it's funny too. I can't believe I let him do that. But we live and learn, don't we? And Now this is a good little observation, I think. It's not you win some and lose some. I prefer to think of it as you win some and you learn some. I like that better. Maybe you do too. Because we learn from our mistakes. We learn from everything. You learn from watching the trees that a storm's coming. When some of the tender leaves will flip over on their back when the storm's coming. Just watch the trees. You'll know, because the wind, I don't know, it affects them differently when it's going to rain. It just flips them. And things like that. You learn from observation. Well, I like to have fun on the video too. I don't just like to be real serious all the time. I figure this video will be about 2 or 3 topics at the most. And talk about relationships and some of the kinds of them I've had. I told you about one in another tape where I had a relationship with a white power boy. Yeah, shit. Don't let them kid you. It's all about sex, damn it. They want sex like everybody else. Everybody wants sex, it seems like. Well, the KKK and the Nazis and all them do too. And I used it to get in close to them so I could spy on them and tell the authorities about shit they were doing. Anyway, they'll take a blowjob or anything they can get, just like all the other little men out there will do. So that's another. I told you about that one. I about got killed. They tried to torture me to make me admit that I turned them in. Well, anyway, that aside right now, I've had some interesting experiences. I was a girlfriend to 3 liquor store owners. They were all in their 60s and 70s. But they owned liquor stores. They had plenty of money. They could spend it on who or whatever they wanted to spend it on. Well, they were good. They were good boyfriends. I traveled around. And back then I used to like that 151 rum and coke by Bacardi. And I don't drink that stuff. I don't drink any of it anymore. I learned better. But anyway, I had some older boyfriends. And see, I tell my shit. You can't blackmail me. First of all, there's nobody to blackmail me to. I don't have a family. You can't say, I'm going to run tell on you. No, you're not going to do shit. Because I don't have anybody that cares. They don't give a shit what I did. You keep it public. And what have they got to pull on you? Nothing. Alright, anyway, thing is, with relationships, I've tried to help transgender people. There's 4 of them I've tried to help. Personally get involved with and help. One of them wanted to be transgender. Is now my landlord. And I talked him out of it. I said, man, you are so male. There ain't no way you're going to ever. And back then, 10 years ago, it was important that you pass as whatever gender you want to be. There ain't no damn way he would ever pass for a woman. People would just laugh at him as a clown. And he's got the personality of a drill instructor. And I just told him, I said, this isn't going to work for you. He took my advice, and now he's very, very into a good social life. He goes to church. He goes to... that's good for him, because he's grounded in the 1950s, the 40s and 50s, when he was raised. And he was raised Lutheran. Now he's going to a Lutheran church. I mean, he's happy with that. And I like to see people happy. I don't care if... Maybe he is being deceived, but he's happily deceived. And that's better than seeing him miserable. I had another one that come to move with me that wanted to be transgender, and she just can't raise the nerve to do it. She is a closet dresser and will probably stay that way. Works as a guy at night and on the third shift, and I get to go nowhere and do nothing with her. I mean, I call her a girl, but she lives as a guy because she just can't make the switch over. And the thing with that is, that's sad. She could be a pretty girl if she worked on it, but she's just not going to do it. And so I'm stuck with that. She rents here too. We don't sleep together. She's got her own bedroom. There's just nothing to it. It's just, she might as well have stayed where she was, except that she couldn't afford to rent there. Colorado is very expensive for renting, making a living there. It'll take all your money to make a living there. I just tried to help a transgender person move. First of all, they were going to come here to live with me, and then their mom talked them out of that. And they had stuff they needed to move from Ohio to West Virginia. So I helped them do that. Then they turned on me. So, they refused to move here after I helped them that much. And I don't know. Now they're going to continue. I give them a lot of pointers and a lot of help to get them going. And I even bought them some things to help them. And I rented a truck to move them. And still got stiffed. So I'm looking for somebody that understands life and understands the proper way to treat people. And I haven't totally found that yet. But I'm still looking. I give everybody the benefit of the doubt until they prove that they're not the one. But I don't know. It is lonely waiting. My relationships mostly has just been I've been alone. And I don't know, that's not much of a relationship when you just have to deal with yourself every day. Of course, I can't afford to keep up a second person. I could live with them. I could share food with them. I could share vehicles with them. I can do whatever. But they got to work. I can't keep them up. Anyway, that's my situation. Well, moving on. I have had quite a few nice cars in my lifetime. I'd like to talk about cars a few minutes. My first vehicle, I started out with paper route at a Mills Home Baptist Orphanage, where my parents were house parents at a cottage. And I had a 10-speed English bike. When they first come out, it was a 10-speed. And I had paper route, had the canvas bags swinging off of each side, you know. And I was about 13 years old, 12, something. I think it's 12. Riding that thing around, throwing papers at 4 o'clock in the morning, stuff like that. Then we moved back to where we originally came from. They could only take being a house parent for about 4 years. That is rough stuff. I mean, I went from being an only child to having 14 brothers that were anywhere from 15 to 18 years old at Mills Home Baptist Orphanage in Thomasville, North Carolina. And anyway, they couldn't take that very much. They were there 4 years, and that was the end of that. We had to move back home, and I had that English bike with me. And I took on 2 paper routes there. Still got up about the same time, but finished a little later. And then I got my first 2-wheeler. I got a Sears dealed it, okay? They didn't make it, they just dealed it. Sears Allstate Vespa scooter. It was a walkthrough. Had a running board. You could just step up on it, sit on the seat, crank it up. Had my saddlebags of papers on the back. And I chased the dogs instead of them chasing me. It was fun. And same old cold mornings, of course. But then, as I got a little older, I gave up the paper route. And my dad had the 61 Falcon, and he had a 61 Ford a Galaxy 500. I hear they go for pretty good money nowadays. Back then they looked awful. Both of them did. And I rode around in those to high school. 11th and 12th grade. In the 11th grade, I was in that vehicle. The 12th grade, I went to work on the second shift in the mill there in town. I paid for the car payment and the insurance and the gas. My dad had to sign for it. But I got a 65 convertible Corvette Stingray with the flip headlights in the front. Had fun with that thing. Oh, I enjoyed it. Wanted to make it faster. So I had some mechanic. This kid that went to school there with me, his daddy was a mechanic at a place, a lot of you have never heard of this probably. It was a Cavalier gas station. And on the sign it looked like one of the Three Musketeers was, you might remember it, some of you, the older ones. Cavalier gas station. And I took my Corvette in there. Was going to gas it up one day, and the guy that run the station, he said, "What are you putting this gas in that car for?" I just need gas. This ain't gas. I said, well, what do you mean? He said, this is shit gas. He said, you need to be burning Amoco 101 octane gas. 101 octane? Well, I started learning about cars. And I don't want to say the guy's name. Somebody might recognize him. he had a customer's car covered up over in the wash pit. And I could not, from the, you know how you can look at a car and sort of tell, even if it's covered up, what it is? I could not tell. I said, what is that over there covered up under the tarp? He said, well, I'm the mechanic for it. The man that owns it stores it here. I said, well, what is it? He said, have you ever heard of an AC Cobra? He said, well, that's a 289 with two fours on the motor, runs 400 plus horsepower. Huh? You can't get 400 horsepower out of a 289, I told him. He said, why don't you come in here and look at the specs book on it? I've got the specs book. I do all the maintenance on it. I went in there in his office and looked. 400 plus horsepower out of a 289 motor. Oh man. I said, can you do my Corvette like that? He looked at me and he said, son, your car will never be what's in that garage out there. Never. It will never compete with it. Oh, I was impressed. I said, can I see it? Can I go look at it? He said, he took me back there and he uncovered it. Aluminum body. Opened the door and sat down inside it. Looked over the gear shift. Looked like a little wine glass sitting there. I mean, he said, well, it ain't no high gear shift. He said, the theory of it being, the closer to the linkage it is, the more positive you're not going to miss a gear when you're speed shifting. I said, oh, okay. Okay. And I said, where's the door latch? She said, there ain't one. Take your elbow and that leather strap on the door. I hit that leather strap with my elbow. The door just flew right open. Now, I don't know. He said, do you want to go for a ride in it? I'll take you a ride in it if you want to see it. I said, well, what does it do? I said, I didn't know what to expect out of this car. He said, well, I'll tell you this. He said, I don't put this gas in it. He said, I put Amoco white gas in it. And he said, one day, after doing it, after gassing it up, right there at the pumps, I hit the gas just as hard as I could hit it in first gear. And the front end come off the ground at the pumps. And then the front end come back down on the ground and the rear end went up in the air. He said it was like riding a Bronco. I didn't know whether to believe that or not. But with all the other crap he was showing me, I wasn't going to call him a liar. You don't want to mess with a Cobra. And of course that was a 289. There's a 427 Cobra too, or 429. And Carroll Shelby built it. You don't want to mess with it unless you're driving it. You don't want to race it. That's just bad stuff. Well, good for them, bad for you. And that is a true story. Tried not to stretch any of it. There ain't nothing to stretch. Well, a best friend of mine did go buy that car. It was for he didn't bother to tell me it was for sale. But a friend of mine had a 63 Corvette. He went over and looked at it and just had to have it. And I asked him one day, I said, well, have you had fun with it? Is it a good car? He said, I outran a 12-cylinder Jaguar through the curves with it. So, I don't know. I didn't see it. I can't vouch for that. Just telling you what I hear. And I know people stretch things. I didn't stretch none of that, but a lot of people like to, you know. But anyway, I had 2 4s with an Edelbrock aluminum intake. 2 AFB Carter Daytona wide mouth 4s with an Edelbrock standard aluminum intake put on it. And that thing would fly. I had a progressive linkage put on the carburetors. So I could punch it halfway and get one carburetor, or I could punch it all the way and get both carburetors. So that saved me on some gas, not having to use 2 carburetors starting off. Stoplight racing in Gastonia, North Carolina. And the cop sitting right there watching. Their standing rule is, we like to watch. You don't get to run through a red light. If you go through a red light, then we come after you. So we had to obey the rules and not run red lights trying to win a race. We had fun. I shot down about 38. I was going for 85 to beat the Red Baron, that World War I fighter race. But I got 30 some, and then my heyday come to a finish. And the reason it happened, I went through 4 clutches in that car. 4. And my granddaddy went around a used car lot, and he had a black, blind mechanic do work for him. And the guy was blind. He replaced all 4 of my clutches. Replaced by a blind man. And my dad and mom act like nothing happened. They couldn't. My mother asked me recently, she said, how did you lose all those clutches? I said, I was racing, Mama. And she said, oh, I would have never believed you would do that. Well, I did. So, anyway, the Red Baron, the red 327 Corvette with 2 4s, didn't stand a chance anymore, because the Firebird 400, the Roadrunner 383, and the Dodge 440, those all come out. Made me look like I was standing still on the pavement. So I sold the Red Baron and got me a Volkswagen, so I didn't have to even think about it anymore. So, and then I went into the Air Force and service. Guess what I did in the Air Force? I ordered a 1972 straight from a factory. They shipped it straight to England. A Javelin SST American Motors. It was a 2-door Javelin SST. And anyway, that was a good little car. It was a 6-cylinder, but in England, 6-cylinder was pretty good. And it was an oversized car for their roads, but I did good with it. I enjoyed it. Had to drive on the left-hand side of the road with it, but it's all right. I tried a couple of English cars and didn't like them. They were more like work vans than they were cars. Anyway, this video's getting 40 minutes. I didn't mean for it to get that long. But that's some more about me and some of the things I've been through. I've had an exciting life. I'm not going to lie to you about that. No, I've had fun. I've been here and done that. And I've had a lot more nice cars I'll tell you about next video. I don't feel like doing it right now. I don't want to stretch this tape any longer. Okay, bye.